Herbal medicine can be a little overwhelming, right? I mean, there's so many plants. Aren't there just a few that a guy could learn that would really, really help you to solve all kinds of problems? Guess what? There are. Let's talk about 5 really good ones. I'm Dr. Patrick Jones from the Homegrown Herbalist School of Botanical Medicine. And in this video, I just want to kind of give you 5 plants that are really, really accessible, really easy to grow, and really, really useful. Okay, so let's get started. So before we do, I just want to mention that some of the plants we're going to talk about aren't safe to use if you're pregnant. Some of them aren't safe to use if you're nursing. And none of them should be combined with pharmaceuticals without talking to your doctor. Okay, sometimes they don't play well together with drugs. Sometimes they play great, but it's not something you do without talking to somebody that understands both things. You know, I've been a clinical herbalist for many years. I've been a veterinarian for over 30 years, and I've used herbs for all kinds of stuff. And honestly, I have a lot of herbs. You know, I mean, I have, over 100 species of herbs that I use frequently. But really and truly, if I only knew a handful, I could do a lot of what I'm doing. So I've picked 5 herbs that are really great, really useful, and really easy. And you can use these plants to solve a lot of problems. The first one's Comfrey, Symphytum officinale. Okay. The Latin word symphytum means to bring together, right? It's talking about bringing bones, bringing flesh together, because that's what it does. One of the amazing things that Comfrey does is it accelerates healing a lot. It really accelerates the rate that cells divide to heal a wound, to heal a fracture. I've used it on some astounding wound cases. Go to the blog, go to homegrownherbalist.com, and I'll put a link. I'll put a link in the description. But go look at some of the wound cases we've done, mostly with Comfrey. It'll blow your mind. The leaf and the root are both medicinal. Root's a little bit stronger. But like I said, it's really, really good for fractures. It's really good for wounds. It's also a very good expectorant. It gets mucus out of the lungs. It also is very soothing. It has a chemical called mucilage in it. That's the same chemical as slippery elm has and marshmallow and guys like that. So it's very good for soothing inflamed mucous membranes in the gut, in the lungs, in the bladder, anything inflamed and irritated that's a mucous membrane. Comfrey will help a lot. It's also a good anti-inflammatory just for sore joints and stuff. Put the tincture right on your sore shoulder and it'll quit hurting. And if there's anything broken or torn in there, it'll help heal it. So really a fantastic, fantastic plant. Don't use it during pregnancy. Don't use it during nursing. And honestly, I use it topically a lot more often than I use it internally. There is some controversy about using it internally. I'll tell you what, I have some videos just on Comfrey. In fact, there's a really long deep dive into Comfrey. And then there's another video on some controversies of internal use of Comfrey. I'll put links to those in the description. Go watch those. Okay, Calendula. Calendula, and the Calendula comes from the same Latin root as the word calendar, because this flower will bloom every day of the year if you live somewhere warm enough for it to do that. You know, it's not going to do it in November in Idaho, but if you lived in Italy, it would do it every day, right? So it's a self-seeding annual, really beautiful little flower. The flower is the medicine, but the whole plant's edible. One of the common names for this plant is pot marigold, right? And it's not because you smoke it and get high. It's because you put it in your pot and make soup, all right? That kind of pot. But, full of vitamins, really nutritious. But it's got some good medicinal properties too. It's a good antibiotic. It has some antiviral properties against herpes viruses, especially cold sores, chickenpox, shingles, things like that. It accelerates healing, not quite as enthusiastically as Comfrey, but pretty good. Helps wounds heal. It's good for menstrual cramps. It's good for stomach ulcers, especially combined with Comfrey. Those two together are very good for stomach ulcers. And like I said, shingles, that's a miserable, painful thing. It's caused by a herpes virus, herpes zoster, which is the same virus that gave you chickenpox when you were a kid. It just hangs around, and when you're, old and wore out, you get shingles. from the same virus. So calendula is good for that. This is one you don't take if you're pregnant. Now safe. But otherwise, fantastic medicine. There's another video on this one too. There's a really deep dive, couple of videos. I'll put links in the description. Echinacea, right? Echinacea is purple coneflower. And anything we say about purple coneflower, we can also say about black-eyed Susans, Rudbeckia hirta. Medicinally, they're the same critter. Okay, they used to be in the same genus. They move them around a little bit. But, black-eyed Susan, purple coneflowers, there's a yellow Echinacea that grows in the Intermountain West, also works. So the root and the flower are both medicinal. The leaf kind of is, but not near as strong. Don't waste your time with the leaf. Use the root or the flower. And the flower is quite good. Almost everybody in North America sells the root, But in Europe, they use the flower a lot. I use the flower a lot. And there's only one case where I would specifically prefer the root to the flower. We'll talk about that in a second. But so what to do? Well, mostly it's an immune stimulant, okay? Stimulates the immune system to fight infections, all right? But it's also got some antibiotic properties, some direct, mostly, again, through immune stimulation, but it has some direct antibiotic properties. Not as good as calendula, not as good as some of the other guys. But it's a much better immune stimulant than calendula, so those two together is a good idea, right? It's also very good for rattlesnake bites and brown recluse bites and hobo spider bites. I've used it on all kinds of cases like that. We have in the Homegrown Herbalist School of Botanical Medicine a lesson just on venomous bites and how to manage a rattlesnake bite. And Echinacea is one of the big players because it neutralizes the venom. It actually neutralizes the enzyme that dissolves the tissue in those venomous bites. We have a whole lesson on that in the herb school. And in fact, we have 5 or 6 lessons besides that one just on wound management. Have a look at the Homegrown Herbalist School of Botanical Medicine. It's a very real-world, direct application, good stuff. If you're not enrolled yet, I know a nice guy that can help you with that. Just go to homegrownherbalist.com. It's also good for cartilage healing. And again, that's related a little bit to why it's also good for venomous bites, because those venomous bites dissolve hyaluronic acid, which is the glue that holds your cells together. And hyaluronic acid is, not only is that enzyme suppressed by the Echinacea, but it also stimulates your body to make more hyaluronic acid to fix it, okay? Well, your joints and your cartilage and your connective tissues are really dependent on hyaluronic acid. If you want to make cartilage or ligaments or things, it's mostly hyaluronic acid. And so Echinacea can help with joint healing. It can help with cartilage healing. It can help with tears of ligaments and things. So really good for that. Cayenne pepper. And this is another one. In fact, I'm pretty sure there's a long video on Echinacea. Go watch that. And I know there's a long one on cayenne, but it gets real deep. The pepper's the medicine. And any hot pepper's fine. I mean, they're all full of capsaicin, which is the active ingredient. Most of the research has been done on Capsicum annuum cayenne pepper, but jalapenos and Scotch bonnets and all the other hot peppers you can think of, they're almost all Capsicum annuum. They're almost all the same species, okay? And the heat, the capsaicin, is the chemical that makes the heat. That's one of the primary medicines. And so they probably have very, very similar medicinal effects. But like I said, the majority of the research has been done on the little red cayenne pepper, okay, what we call cayenne. So what's it good for? Well, it's good for stopping bleeding, topically or internally. It's good for blood pressure, high or low, I don't care, because it improves elasticity and function of the vessels. And so if they're working right and have what they need, they contract for low blood pressure and they expand for high blood pressure and make your blood pressure normal, right? It's also a very good expectorant for getting goobers out of the lung. I've used it a lot in the veterinary practice for shock. Dogs that are hit by cars, dogs that are having anesthesia reactions, dogs that don't want to wake up after surgery, things like that. Little newborn puppies in a C-section that don't want to wake up, little cayenne in the mouth. Boy, that wakes them right up. Anyway, great for things like that. It's good for sinus congestion, clears your sinuses. And if you don't believe me, just poke a little cayenne pepper in your mouth and you'll believe me in just a minute when your nose starts running like crazy and you're crying like a kid. Cayenne's good for that. It's also good for stomach ulcers, which seems really counterintuitive, but the chemistry of cayenne actually helps stomach ulcers to heal. So, cayenne pepper, and the whole pepper's the medicine. Chamomile, Matricaria recutita. There's another species too. Matricaria recutita is German chamomile. There's also Roman chamomile, which is Chamomile nobile, but medicinally they're the same. The flower is the medicine, and it's sort of a calming nervine. That's mostly what it does. Most of what it does is from that effect, okay? So it's good for insomnia. It's good for anxiety. It's good for stress. It's good for pain. For all the same reason, right? It's calming nerves, telling them to have a nap and quit screaming, right? So that's good. It also has some pretty good antibiotic properties. It has some pretty good antifungal properties. It has some anti-inflammatory properties. So it's good for wounds. It's good for sores. It's good for inflammation. It's really, really good for anything wrong with your guts. You know, diarrhea, colic, any kind of digestive issues. Chamomile really, really is beneficial. It's a liver tonic, so it helps digestion that way by improving bile production and bile flow. It's good for menstrual cramps, again, because it's a calming nervine, just getting those nerves to relax and quit being so grumpy. It's a kidney restorative, which is very rare. There aren't very many herbs. There's a lot of herbs that make your kidneys work better and pee more, right? Or to flush them out or to improve function. But there's not very many herbs that will help an injured or damaged kidney heal up, and chamomile is one of those. So that's kind of cool. I've got videos on chamomile too. I'll put links to that where we get a little deeper. Okay, the next one is mallow, all right? Malva neglecta. And this is a very common weed. I mean, this is growing everywhere. In Idaho, we call it Idaho geranium, right? So it looks like a geranium. It's not a geranium, but it kind of looks like one, the leaves on the flower. Anyway, the whole plant's edible. They use this as a salad green in a lot of the world. The whole plant's medicinal. The root's a little stronger, but the leaf's pretty good. And this herb is also very soothing and has a lot of mucilage in it, okay? And so it's good for bronchitis and the cough and the irritation that you get from respiratory infections. It's good for diarrhea because that mucilage is soothing to the gut and helps things heal up and feel better. It's good for bladder infections, again, because it strengthens the wall and protects the wall of the bladder by coating it with that mucilage, which makes it harder for the bugs to attach, right? So they get peed out. And it also decreases the pain and the irritation and inflammation of that bladder infection. I've used it on gangrene cases in the vet practice, where you're starting to get that line, and in the human practice too, on hobo bites and recluse bites. But anyway, you start getting that line where everything on the other side of that line is going to die and fall off. Mallow, topically and internally, I've never had it in 12 hours not talk that tissue out of diet. It's very, very good for giving the body what it needs to say, okay, I'm going to get through this, and we don't have to die and slough things off. Really powerful. All right, plantain. This is a Plantago major. This is a very common weed, probably grown in your backyard. There's also a narrow leaf plantain, Plantago lanceolata, but they're both the same. They both work the same. If you're going to plant one, plant the broadleaf because it makes more medicine, right? The leaves are bigger. In fact, if you're going to plant one, plant the Turkish variant of the broadleaf. Anyway, the whole plant's medicinal. The leaf, the roots are nothing. I mean, they're little itty-bitty roots. They're not good for anything. I mean, they probably are, but it's not worth harvesting something that little, right? The leaf is the medicine. You can use it topically. You can use it internally. It's very good at pulling poisons and toxins and infectious pus and junk like that out of the body. Okay, really good wound poultice for pulling things out. Really good for venomous bites, and whether that's a mosquito bite or a bee sting or a hornet sting or a rattlesnake, I don't care what it is. Plantain topically internally helps pull that poison out. And I've seen some really remarkable cases just with this plant on those cases, okay? And there's a couple of deeper videos on plantain. I'll put those in the links. Anyway, we're just touching base here on them a little bit today in this one. Good for bladder infections. I've used it in really serious sepsis cases in the veterinary practice. It just helps pull the poisons out. I've used it on on blood poisoning in wounds, where you get a bite wound from a dog or something, and you get purple streaks going up the arm, and it clears that up. Very, very good plant for pulling toxins out of the body. Okay, now here's a little more exotic one you may not have heard of. It's called Dandelion, Taraxacum officinale. And Dandelion is another one. I'll put a link to that video. We have a very deep dive monograph lesson on dandelion. It's like 2 hours long. Go watch that one. The whole plant's edible, tons of vitamins, vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E. Really good for you. The flower's edible, the leaf's edible, the root's edible. The root you can roast and make sort of a coffee substitute that's not nearly as good as its cousin chicory. But if you don't have any chicory and you want something that's not nearly as good, roast some dandelion roots and make coffee out of that. It's not coffee. It doesn't have any caffeine or anything in it, but it tastes sort of nice, like a morning warm beverage ought to do. Dandelions have a lot of potassium in them. That's good. Especially because dandelion leaf is a good diuretic. So we use it for bladder infections. I use it for pulmonary congestion. I use it for edema. Anything you want to get fluid out of, dandelion's a good choice. And pharmaceuticals that do that, like Lasix, furosemide, diuretic drugs, they have a tendency to cause potassium depletion. Well, God put a lot of potassium in his diuretic because he's really smart, right? And so having a high potassium content in a diuretic is a twofer. You're getting 2 for 1. Great liver tonic, the root especially. A great kidney tonic, the leaf more for the kidneys. It's good for skin problems like eczema and psoriasis. Why? Well, because that's usually a liver problem. It's usually a toxicity problem. So if you make the liver happy, the eczema and psoriasis resolve. Dandelion root's good for that. Good for bladder infections, good for jaundice, again, because it's a liver tonic. Good for lots of other things. And people eat it. They make jelly out of it. They make wine out of the flowers. They make, you can put it in your salad. Early in the spring, when the leaves are a little younger, they taste better than as bitter. The sap will kill warts. Break the leaf and put the sap on your wart and it'll kill it. It's good for all kinds of stuff. And like I said, all kinds of culinary and fun things. If you're making something fun from dandelions, put it in the comment. If you're making jelly or juice or something fun, tell us about it. That's fun. So there you go. There's 5 plants, right? And most of them are either in your flower beds or your lawn as weeds, right? And if they aren't, they should be. So plant some in your flower beds and quit spraying your lawn with poison, and you'll have some wonderful weeds next year. You can harvest them and use them for medicine. But I'm Doc Jones. Great visiting with you. I hope you enjoy it. Go ahead and click the share button. If you know somebody that's wanting to get into herbs a little bit and wants to learn some things, click that share button. They'd appreciate that, and we'd appreciate it. And if you enjoyed the video, click the like and subscribe. If you'd like to really, really learn deeply about medicinal plants, like I said, my books are available at homegrownherbalist.com, and the Homegrown Herbalist School of Botanical Medicine is a great resource. Have a look at that too. I'm Doc Jones. Thanks for listening and have a great day. We've been talking about these 5 plants in this lesson, and we have at homegrownherbalist.com a really great little kit called the 10 Plants That Can Change Your Life kit. And that kit has, of course, 11 plants in it. The 10 plant kit has 11 plants. I don't know why that is. I never was very good at counting. Anyway, there's 11 plants in this kit, 5 of which are the ones we're talking about during this lesson. And then there's 6 others. And it's just a great resource to have. If you have any of the issues that we're talking about during this lesson, or know anybody that does, this would be a great resource to have on hand. It also comes with, 11 little cards that tell you about each of the plants and how to use them and what they're good for. So just a really great resource. Good to have on hand. You can pick them up at homegrownherbalist.com.